Picture this, the dead of night, April 14, 1912. The colossal RMS Titanic, a beacon of modern engineering hailed as unsinkable, glides through the icy black waters of the North Atlantic. On board, over 2,000 souls sleep, dance, and dream, unaware they are sailing directly into a nightmare. What you think you know about this disaster is just the tip of the iceberg. The real story is far more sinister, filled with secrets, negligence, and chilling decisions that sealed the fate of so many. The night was unusually calm, the sea like a pane of black glass. This stillness was a bad omen. Without wind, there were no waves breaking against the base of icebergs, making them nearly invisible in the moonless dark. The lookouts, Frederick Fleet and Reginald Lee, were straining their eyes, but they were missing a crucial piece of equipment: binoculars. The ship's second officer had been replaced at the last minute, and in the rush, he forgot to hand over the key to the locker where the binoculars were stored. A simple, forgotten key. A seemingly minor oversight that would have catastrophic consequences. Just before midnight, Fleet spotted it, a dark mass, dead ahead. He frantically rang the warning bell 3 times and telephoned the bridge, shouting the terrifying words, "Iceberg, right ahead!" First Officer William Murdoch ordered the ship to be turned hard to port and the engines reversed, but it was too late. The Titanic was too large, its turning circle too wide. For 37 agonizing seconds, the ship scraped along the submerged spur of the iceberg, tearing open a series of gashes along its starboard side. The damage wasn't a single massive hole, as many believe, but a series of punctures stretching nearly 300 feet. Below deck, water began to pour in, a relentless, freezing flood. Many passengers were initially unconcerned. The impact felt like a slight shudder, nothing more. Some even went on deck to play with the chunks of ice that had fallen from the berg. But for the ship's architect, Thomas Andrews, a single glance at the flooding plans told him everything. He knew the ship was designed to stay afloat, with its first 4 watertight compartments breached. The iceberg had damaged 5. He gave the ship's captain, Edward Smith, the grim prognosis. The Titanic had at most 2 hours to live. The unsinkable ship was already sinking. Now, let's talk about the warnings. This wasn't a surprise attack from the ocean. Throughout the day, the Titanic's wireless operators, Jack Phillips and Harold Bride, had received multiple ice warnings from other ships in the area. The steamship Mesaba sent a critical message detailing a large field of pack ice and numerous large icebergs directly in the Titanic's path. But this message, this crucial lifeline, never reached the bridge. Why? Because the wireless operators were overwhelmed. They worked for the Marconi Company, not the White Star Line, and their primary job was to transmit personal messages for wealthy first-class passengers. The ice warning from the Mesaba was simply put aside, buried under a pile of telegrams about stock prices and dinner plans. The arrogance of the era, the belief in their own infallible technology, led them to ignore the clear and present danger. As the ship began to list, a horrifying reality set in. There weren't enough lifeboats. The Titanic was legally compliant for its time, but the regulations were dangerously outdated, based on a ship's tonnage, not its passenger capacity. It carried enough lifeboats for just 1,178 people, less than half of everyone on board. The chaos of the evacuation compounded the tragedy. The crew was poorly drilled, and in the confusion, many lifeboats were launched partially empty. The women and children first protocol was inconsistently applied. On one side of the ship, officers interpreted it as women and children only, sending boats away half full while men stood by. On the other side, men were allowed in if there was room. This discrepancy in orders cost hundreds of lives. Imagine the scene. The band, led by Wallace Hartley, famously played on their calm, defiant music, a surreal soundtrack to the unfolding horror. The ship's lights flickered and then went out, plunging the deck into absolute darkness, broken only by the stars. The cacophony of screams, the roar of the ocean, and the groaning of stressed metal filled the air. As the bow plunged deeper, the stern rose high out of the water, revealing its massive propellers. For a moment it hung there, a dark silhouette against the night sky, before the immense strain became too much. With a sound like thunder, the Titanic broke in 2 between the 3rd and 4th funnels. The stern section settled back into the water before rising vertically one last time, then began its final 2.5-mile descent to the ocean floor. Over 1,500 people were now in the water, clinging to debris in the freezing -2 degrees Celsius water. Most would succumb to hypothermia within minutes. The screams for help echoed across the water, a sound that would haunt the survivors for the rest of their lives. Of the 20 lifeboats, only one, commanded by 5th Officer Harold Lowe, returned to search for survivors. They pulled only 4 people from the water, one of whom died shortly after. The others, fearing their boats would be swamped by the desperate drowning, rowed away from the cries. And what of the ship that was just on the horizon? The SS Californian was stopped in the same ice field, less than 20 miles away. Its crew saw the Titanic's distress rockets, 8 white flares fired into the sky. But they misinterpreted them. The ship's captain had already gone to bed, and the sole wireless operator had turned off his equipment for the night, just minutes before the Titanic's first distress call went out. He slept through the entire disaster, while the crew on deck watched a great ship on the horizon fire rockets and disappear, doing nothing. The official inquiries would later condemn the Californians' inaction, a decision that remains one of the most controversial and heartbreaking what-ifs of the entire tragedy. The aftermath was a media frenzy and a public outcry. How could this happen? Official investigations were launched in both the United States and Great Britain. The U.S. Senate inquiry, led by Senator William Alden Smith, was aggressive and relentless. He grilled the surviving officers, the crew, and J. Bruce Ismay, the chairman of the White Star Line who had survived by stepping into a lifeboat. Ismay was vilified by the press, branded a coward for saving himself while so many others perished. The inquiries uncovered the litany of failures, the ignored ice warnings, the lack of binoculars, the insufficient lifeboats, the poorly managed evacuation, and the inaction of the SS Californian. These investigations led to sweeping changes in maritime safety. The International Ice Patrol was established to monitor icebergs in the North Atlantic. Ships were required to carry enough lifeboats for every single person on board. 24-hour radio watches became mandatory. The Titanic disaster, in its sheer scale and horror, forced the world to rewrite the rules of sea travel. The loss of life was staggering, but it wasn't in vain. The safety measures we take for granted today were born from that icy grave. The cultural fascination with the Titanic endures more than a century later. It's a story of human arrogance versus the power of nature. It's a drama of class, with the stark contrast between the opulent lives of the first class and the grim fate of the third. It's a collection of personal stories of heroism, sacrifice, and cowardice. The story of Captain Smith, who went down with his ship. The story of Ida and Isidore Strauss, the elderly co-owner of Macy's department store, who refused to be separated and died together on the deck. The story of the unsinkable Molly Brown, who helped row her lifeboat and urged her fellow survivors to go back for others. The Titanic isn't just a shipwreck. It's a modern myth, a cautionary tale that resonates deeply within us. It reminds us that no matter how advanced our technology, we are always vulnerable. It exposes the flaws in human judgment and the tragic consequences of pride and negligence. The secrets of that night, buried for decades on the ocean floor, continue to be uncovered, painting an ever more detailed and devastating picture of what really happened. The ship of dreams became a tomb, and its story serves as a permanent chilling reminder of the night the unthinkable happened. Thank you for watching. If you found this journey into the dark history of the Titanic compelling, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the past's most shocking events.